Good morning. This is Jack from Charting the Markets Crypto, and this is the pre-market webinar for the morning of Wednesday, the 22nd of October. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from and transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to issue trading signals. Right. Okay, looking at Bitcoin. We are still below the weekly middle band. We've actually gone back and tested as resistance, which isn't particularly encouraging. But the main thing I'm watching here, and the main thing that's given me a lot of thought this morning, is the fact that while we've been seeing a limited rally, but a high retest on equities this week, we've not really been seeing crypto follow suit. This has got implications, and given that I'm not expecting to see much more than the retest on equities before we start a larger retracement, this has got implications for whether or not this double top on Bitcoin is going to play out. As the days pass, it is more likely that this is going to play out. If it does play out, then obviously we're talking about a sizable move down, which would take us down into about the 88.3 to 90k range if it makes target, and that's got knock-on implications on Solana and Ethereum. So I'll come to those. All right, looking at the daily chart, back test of the 50 DMA so far failed there. Testing the 200 DMA again, but again, as I said, as it fails to rise with equities, the prospects are darkening. No current divergence on the 60-minute chart, but I have got more to show you on the Solana chart and Ethereum. Okay, on the Solana chart, on the weekly chart, we're testing the weekly middle band. That held on both Solana and Ethereum at the end of last week, which was encouraging. But doesn't necessarily mean they're going to continue holding. On the daily chart, is there a potential pattern that could take this down? Yes, there is. And it's the right kind of size, slightly oversized, but not particularly. And actually, it's not bad. And that is this pattern here. This would be the left shoulder. This would be the right shoulder. Sorry, this would be the head. This would be the right shoulder. And if we see a sustained breakdown below the 200 DMA at currently at 172, then that would have a target back at a retracement about at the lows of 95.24. Now, it wouldn't necessarily need to make that target, but if it did, that would signal the bull market is probably over. And this is the first time in the last few months when we've had many calls that the bull market has ended, and that I'm actually significantly considering the possibility that might be the case. I'm not saying it necessarily is the case, but I'm just saying this is looking mildly alarming. And is there a pattern? Yes, there is. So I'm going to be doing a post about this today and talking about it, but that is what I'm looking at here. I've drawn that here. I mean, overall, it's a pretty nice looking rising megaphone here. This is a pretty decent test of rising support right here. So we've got another support here, which I'm watching, which is this rising support trend line, currently in about the 177 area. That may hold, but if it breaks, that's, again, not particularly encouraging. Looking at Ethereum, still holding the weekly middle band, still got an RSI 5 buy signal fixed, sell signal fixed, which is reaching the possible near miss target area, and it may be that that's going to be done and dusted at the end of this week. In terms of the charts here, do we have a possible head and shoulders here? Yes, although it's not as nice. And that I'm going to draw that on the hourly chart, and that is, hang on, bear with me a moment. That is this head and shoulders, which has already broken down. No, it's not as nice. Now we have the little head and shoulders here, and actually it looks very like it. I'll just draw in the arrows for that, but this is something to bear in mind. I really like the 3,500 area for support. It's a great area, but in the event that breaks, then this is what we would be looking at. Hang on. Alrighty. Some of these old arrows. Alrighty. And what would we be looking at for targets? So arguably, that's already broken down. We haven't had a clean retest on it, but if that's the pattern, then that would have a target in about the 25.50 area. I'm skeptical about that reaching it, but it's certainly not a bad pattern. And that is actually a nested head and shoulder setup. We will see how that develops, but I am thinking that might develop. So in the event that we see that breakdown on Bitcoin, that would be my lean on what would happen here. And I think we might well see that. So we'll see how that goes. But that is definitely something to bear in mind. I'll be writing a post about that today. But in the event that we see a breakdown, which I'd expect to see during the next week, those would be the obvious targets. So I'm going to be, I will be updating, and we will see how that develops. All right, great. In that case, that's a wrap. Everyone take care, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow morning.